Welcome back to part 2 of our epic tale. What if Igris became the next Shadow Monarch? As the world recovers from the brutal battles that shaped its destiny, new challenges rise from the hidden corners of shadow and light. The story continues with the untold struggles of legacy and rebirth. As old enemies return, new alliances are forged, and the true cost of power is revealed. In these unfolding chapters, Igris must navigate a treacherous path where every choice could mean salvation or destruction, not just for himself, but for all who stand beneath his shadow. Prepare to journey deeper into a world where legends are born, and myths are set in motion. This is the saga's continuation, the next chapter in a story that spans realms of shadow and light entwined in eternal conflict. Join us now as the final chapters bring the epic closer to its destiny. Chapter 5. Legacy and Rebirth. The world held its breath in the fragile calm after the storm, a silence heavy with the ghosts of the fallen and the weight of what was left undone. Igris stood at the precipice of change, the shadows around him whispering of past debts and futures unwritten. The victories gained in relentless war had come at a price carved deep into the earth and soul alike. Allies and enemies alike nursed wounds seen and unseen. Trust was as fragile as the dawn light filtering through shattered ruins. Amidst this tentative peace, whispers spread of a new power awakening, one that promised rebirth but demanded a reckoning with the past. Igris's path led him inward as much as outward, a journey to reconcile shadow and light within himself and those who followed. The monuments to sacrifice were many, those who gave all in service of a fragile hope. As the world turned, the cycle of legacy and rebirth spun anew. The monarch knew the battles ahead would test not just strength, but the very soul of the realms. The final chapters beckoned, a convergence of fate, power, and the enduring will to endure. The city slowly healed, scars softened but never forgotten, a testament to resilience etched into every stone and every whispered story. Igris walked the streets, a monarch burdened not just by power but by the memories of those who had fallen. His shadow soldiers flanked him silently, a reminder of the sacrifices that paved his path. Amidst this fragile peace, old allies sought new purpose, and enemies plotted beneath the surface. The delicate dance of politics and power resumed with renewed fervor. Councils convened, plans unfurled, and alliances shifted like shadows at dusk. Cha Hae-in worked tirelessly, her light a steady flame guiding the hesitant and weary. Yet beneath the surface, new threats simmered, whispers of awakening monarchs, long thought dormant, returning with ambitions that could undo all that was built. Igris faced a personal reckoning as well. Shadows within stirred, and memories of Jinwoo's unwavering spirit weighed on every choice. Rebirth demanded more than renewal, it demanded sacrifice, honesty, and courage to confront the darkness within. The stage was set for the next great upheaval, a trial of legacies and the birth of new legends. The halls of the monarch's palace echoed with soft footsteps and whispered conversations, a room heavy with unspoken fears and tentative hopes. Igris convened with his closest advisors, faces etched with concern and determination. The recent calm was fragile, a mere pause before a storm yet to break. Reports came of monarchs once believed dormant stirring in distant lands, each with ambitions as dangerous as they were vast. The delicate balance between shadow and light teetered precariously. Igris pondered his own place in this shifting landscape, not just as a ruler, but as a symbol of what it meant to wield power responsibly. Cha Hae-in's voice broke through the quiet, a steady reminder of the path forward, a path that demanded sacrifice, unity, and unwavering resolve. Amid political intrigue and growing threats, moments of personal reflection surfaced for Igris, visions of Jinwoo, the ghosts of battles past, the stories of those lost but never forgotten. The future shimmered on the horizon, a fragile promise of rebirth amid shadow's ever-looming grasp. The monarch prepared to face what destiny awaited, to forge a legacy worthy of the sacrifices that time had written in shadow and light. Beyond the palace walls, the world stirred with quiet tension. The remnants of once proud kingdoms welcomed tentative rebuilding even as shadows deepened beyond the horizon. Igris moved through the city, observing the faces of those who had survived, sorrow and hope interwoven in their eyes. He understood that the battles of the past had reshaped not just land but souls. The delicate threads of alliance held together by trust, by shared sacrifice. Yet beneath the surface, old wounds festered, and new conflicts brewed like storms on the distant seas. Amidst this, a mysterious herald arrived from beyond the realms, a messenger bearing cryptic warnings and secrets that challenged even the monarch's keen insight. Whispers spread of an ancient force, one that could shatter the fragile peace and rewrite the fate of all kingdoms. Igris realized that this rebirth was not a gentle renewal but a fierce crucible. The legacy he sought to build would demand strength beyond shadow and light. It required the courage to face the unknown. Under a moonlit sky, Igris stood atop the highest tower of his palace, gazing outward toward realms both familiar and unknown. The wind whispered secrets carried across time and space, beckoning him toward a destiny yet unresolved. The past was etched in shadow and light, a tapestry woven with triumphs, losses, and the indelible marks of sacrifice. Yet the future remained a fragile thread suspended between hope and peril. The arrival of the mysterious herald had stirred more than just whispers. It had awakened questions of loyalty, faith, and the very nature of power. Igris knew his decisions in the days to come would shape not just his legacy but the fate of all who looked to him for guidance. As dawn broke, painting the world in hues of promise and uncertainty, the monarch steeled himself. Legacy was not simply born, it was forged in fire and shadow alike. And so began the final journey, the path toward rebirth, redemption, and the eternal struggle that defines all who walk between darkness and dawn. Chapter 6. Shadows and Light Unite. The dawn broke with a calm that belied the storm beneath, a world on the cusp of transformation where the lines between shadow and light blurred into an uncertain twilight. Igris stood before a council of monarchs and hunters, once adversaries now tentative allies bound by a common purpose. The scars of war still marked their faces and souls, but a fragile hope flickered in their eyes. The council convened to address the rising tides of darkness, a force ancient and relentless threatening to unravel the delicate fabric of their hard-won peace. Voices from once divided factions spoke cautiously but with growing resolve. Igris listened, heart heavy with the weight of leadership, yet buoyed by the growing unity he saw before him. The path ahead was riddled with peril, but unity was their beacon in the encroaching gloom. Amid strategies and plans, Cha Hae-in's unwavering spirit became a symbol of resilience that inspired even the most battle-weary. Together, shadow and light sought to forge a new dawn, one where old wounds healed and new legends were born. In the war room deep beneath the palace, maps and arcane symbols covered every surface, a mosaic of strategy reflecting a world teetering on the edge of chaos. Igris and Cha Hae-in moved among advisors, weaving together plans that balanced hope and harsh reality. The ancient dark force, once whispered only in legend, was stirring with intent to consume all realms. Hunters and monarchs debated tactics, each voice tinged with the scars of past battles and the weight of responsibility. Igris's shadow soldiers stood silently at the room's edges, their presence a stark reminder of the power still at his command. Outside, vigilance was constant. Spies and scouts reported movements from across realms, portals flickering, monsters rallying, and shadows lengthening in spaces once thought safe. In quiet moments, the monarch sought counsel from trusted allies, drawing strength from bonds forged in trials of fire and shadow. Yet, doubts lingered, a question unspoken but ever present: could this fragile unity endure the coming storm? As the council adjourned, plans set in motion and preparations underway, the world braced for the battle that would decide its future. Unity was no longer a choice but a necessity, the last ember in the encroaching dark. The nights grew restless as the realms braced for the storm to come. The moon's pale light cast long shadows over the city, where whispers of ancient powers and forgotten promises filtered through the cold winds. Igris searched within himself as much as in the world beyond. The path to unity was fraught with peril, not just from external enemies but from the seeds of doubt and fear sown in hearts long scarred by war. In council chambers and hidden halls, alliances wavered under strain. Old wounds reopened, and trust hung by a fragile thread. Yet, amid the turmoil, brief moments of clarity and hope glimmered, shared laughter, steadfast resolve, and the growing bond between monarch and hunter. Cha Hae-in remained a beacon, her fierce courage igniting a spark where darkness threatened to consume. The forces marshaled for battle were immense, an array of skills, powers, and loyalties converging toward a single point. Igris understood the mission was more than survival, it was the chance to shape a legacy that would outlast the shadows. As dawn neared, the world held its breath, for the fight to come would not only determine their fate but the fate of the fragile light that humans and monarchs alike clung to. The hour of reckoning approached with the inevitability of the rising sun. Armies gathered, their banners fluttering in the cold wind as warriors prepared their weapons and steeled their hearts. Igris stood among them, a figure both commanding and solitary, a monarch bearing the weight of history and hope. Cha Hae-in's steady gaze met his, a silent pact between shadow and light. The air crackled with tension and anticipation, magic humming just beneath the surface, ready to unleash destruction or salvation. As the first drumbeats echoed through the camp, signaling the march to battle, Igris felt the full measure of his resolve harden. This was more than war. It was a testament to unity, sacrifice, and the unyielding spirit of those who dared to dream of a dawn beyond shadow. The final conflict loomed, its outcome uncertain but its necessity undeniable. In that moment, all stood ready, to fight, to fall, and perhaps, to rise anew. The battle was upon them, a tempest of chaos and courage swirling across the scarred landscape. Igris moved amidst the fray, shadows bending to shield, strike, and inspire. Each clash was a story of sacrifice, of lives given to hold the line, hopes kindled in the darkest hour. Cha Hae-in fought fiercely, her light carving paths through the shadowed ranks of their foes. The unity of shadow and light was fragile but unbreakable, a beacon in the storm of destruction. Amidst the chaos, moments of humanity shone bright, a child shielded from harm, a brother's hand lifted in defiance, a whispered vow to never yield. The enemy was ruthless, their power vast and merciless. Yet the alliance stood firm, driven by more than strategy, a shared dream for a world beyond war. As dawn broke over the battlefield, the tide of battle shifted, a new hope rising with the sun. Chapter 7. End of the legend, start of the myth. The air was thick with the scent of ash and victory as the final battle's echoes faded into a fragile silence. Wounded realms breathed under skies streaked with dawn's first light, recovering from the scars of war and the shadows it left behind. Igris stood amid the remnants of conflict, his shadow soldiers now quiet sentinels, his crown heavier with the burdens and hopes of countless souls. The world looked to him not just as a monarch of shadows, but as a symbol of endurance, a beacon forged through sacrifice, loyalty, and unyielding will. But legends are not merely born, they are forged in the crucible of loss and rebirth. The whispers of myth began to stir, the rise of stories that would echo through generations. Igris faced the twilight of his reign knowing that every ending is but a new beginning. The shadows and light that defined him would become a legacy, one that would inspire, haunt, and endure beyond the veil of time. And so, the legend ended, and the myth began. With the battles behind them, the survivors gathered in quiet remembrance, honoring those lost and celebrating the fragile peace won through sacrifice. Igris walked among them, his presence both a comfort and reminder of the cost paid to safeguard their future. Stories began to weave together, tales of heroism, of shadows conquered and light embraced. The bonds formed in fire grew stronger, extending beyond realms and races alike. Yet, beneath the surface, the monarch knew that peace was but a fleeting moment, an interlude before the eternal cycle of shadow and light resumed its dance. He resolved to guard this fragile balance, knowing that myths are born not just of triumph, but of vigilance, sacrifice, and enduring hope. As the realms healed, Igris's legend grew, not as a tyrant, but as a guardian whose shadow would forever watch over the fragile dawn. The end was merely a new beginning. The days that followed were marked by rebuilding, not just of walls and cities, but of trust and purpose. The scars of war would never fully fade, etched into the history and memory of the realms. Yet hope blossomed amidst the ruins, fragile but enduring. Igris, once a lone shadow, had become a symbol of resilience and unity. The mantle of Shadow Monarch sat heavy but honored upon his brow. He was no longer just a warrior, he was a beacon guiding those who walked the line between darkness and light. The bond between monarch and hunter, once tentative and fraught with mistrust, had transformed into an unbreakable alliance, a testament to what could be achieved when shadows and light sought common ground. But the monarch knew the tale was far from over. Legends lived on through stories passed from one generation to the next, morphing into myth and inspiring new heroes. As night fell and stars shone overhead, Igris stood alone once more, contemplating the endless cycle of beginnings and endings. The shadows whispered promises of challenges yet to come, threats to test the fragile peace and the strength of those he watched over. With a resolute breath, he embraced the eternal vigil, knowing that his legend would inspire both fear and hope, shaping the fate of realms beyond his time. The end of one story marked the start of many more. The horizon stretched vast and endless as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the world forever changed. The echoes of war had faded, replaced by the steady hum of renewal and quiet determination. Igris stood atop a hill overlooking the city, a silhouette against the dying light, a monarch shaped by the crucible of endless conflict and the fragile hope of peace. In his heart, the knowledge that his journey was both an ending and a beginning settled deeply. The legacy he left was not in power or titles but in the stories shared by those who remembered, a legacy of shadow and light intertwined, of sacrifice and unwavering resolve. The world would tell his tale with reverence and fear, as a warning and a beacon. For legends, like shadows, can both protect and consume. As night embraced the land, Igris's gaze lifted to the stars, a silent vow whispered into the cosmos. No matter what came next, the monarch would stand eternal, a guardian of the fragile dawn and the endless twilight that followed. Thus ends the legend, and thus begins the myth. As the chapters close on this epic saga, the story of Igris, the Shadow Monarch, stands as a testament to the eternal dance between shadow and light. Born from loyalty and forged in sacrifice, Igris's journey traversed realms of darkness and hope, battle and peace, loss and rebirth. He bore the weight of crown and shadow alike, not as a tyrant, but as a guardian shaped by the trials of war and the fragile dreams of a shattered world. Through alliances made and broken, through battles fierce and moments of quiet resolve, he became a symbol not just of power, but of endurance and unity. The legend of Igris will echo through generations, both a warning and an inspiration. For in every shadow lies a spark of light, and in every light, the shadow of sacrifice. As the curtain falls on this tale, one truth remains clear: every ending births a new beginning, and every legend becomes a myth waiting to be told. Thank you for journeying through the realms of shadow and dawn. May the stories inspire, and the shadows protect, always. Thank you for experiencing this saga. Support the channel for more incredible stories